Hi everyone, good to be back with you again. I hope things are going well. I've just recorded a couple of interviews just to recap for you the essence really of what you learned about radio journalism this time last year when we did the unit together. So in this first video, I'm just going to recap the writing technique, and then in video number 2, I'll talk just a little bit about presenting. So first of all, you'll remember that writing for radio is a lesson in brevity. Most important, one idea per story, lead paragraph, one sentence sums up your story angle, and then it's fleshed out in a few more sentences, not many, a little bit further down, followed by audio. Your voice might come back in after that. So very important that you keep things tight, clear, use as few words as possible, use colloquial language because you're writing for the ear. It's got to sound natural for the newsreader and for you when you're doing a voiceover. And you really want to keep it tight. I think that's the most important thing. So you've got to have a lot of clarity about what it is you want to say before you actually sit down and write. Make sure that you've got it really clear in your head what your angle is for that particular story. Don't try and squeeze too much in there. Keep it simple. Use as few words as possible. Use simple words. If you've got an awfully long sentence there, chop it in half and turn it into 2 sentences. It's going to be a lot easier for the newsreader to read and a lot easier for the listener to comprehend at the other end. They're the real basics. Use direct language. You remember we spoke about this. You want an active voice in your copy. So you don't want things having been done to something, but something is being done. Always use active voice, always use present tense. The thing about radio you'll remember is its immediacy. The fact that it's a news breaker. Even with online, radio is still a relatively quick medium. So everything has to be in the present tense, not the past tense. Don't date your copy by starting your first par with yesterday. We don't want a history lesson in a radio news story. We want the latest information. It might be necessary for you to background that a little bit further down in the story, and that's okay. You can have a sentence or 2 of explanation, but remember up the top in that first paragraph, it's the news, the latest, that you really have to highlight as your news angle. Accuracy, of course, it's always important no matter whether you're writing for radio, TV or online. But with radio it can be challenging because you have so many tight deadlines. So just remember that you need to ensure that your copy is as accurate as you can possibly get it in the time that you have. And if you're not sure, make sure you check, because you'll lose credibility if you start pushing out copy that's just not right. Avoid acronyms. Avoid statistics if you can. You don't want to have too many numbers in that radio news copy. Sometimes it's essential to the story that you have to have a number rounded up or round it down. Round it off, that's the key. Don't be too precise with numbers so that the listener's thinking, oh, hang on, what was that? How many did they say? Round it up, round it down. Avoid cliches. In the pipeline, time will tell. It's just a waste of words. Remember, every word you use, choose it carefully and have it meaningful. Same with jargon, just get rid of it. People won't understand it. It's just meaningless really, and you've got to be economical with your use of words. So every word does need to convey meaning. Don't repeat the words of the audio in your copy. So Joe Bloggs was horrified by the outcome. And then Joe Bloggs crops up and says, well, I'm horrified by the outcome. Think of another way of explaining or describing how Joe Bloggs has reacted. You can convey the same meaning, but use different words. Always attribute. So you'll get information from all different sources, from public relations people, from government ministers, from government minders, all sorts will be throwing press releases and material at you to push their cause. And that's fine, but always keep that in the back of your mind. Everyone has an ulterior motive for giving you information. So make sure when you write that copy up that you attribute it. Don't accept it as gospel and have it in the copy as though you're actually saying this. Make sure the listener knows well and truly that this is a belief of so-and-so, whoever your talent is or whoever you're writing about in your story. Punctuation, obviously a really important one. It can change the meaning of what you're saying dramatically, so make sure you punctuate. And read your copy aloud to yourself, but aloud at the end, because remember, it's story that's been written for the ear. Best way to test it out on your ears. So once you've finished, just sit there. You don't have to do it really loudly, but just sort of whisper it to yourself, and you'll get a really good sense of whether or not it flows and whether it's going to make good radio copy. I reckon that's about it in a nutshell. They're the key points. Hopefully you remember them all. I'm sure you do. You're all brilliant students. And I'll look forward to seeing you all again. Hopefully our paths will cross. Bye.